May I now have the privilege to invite on stage the chairperson of the second session, Gautam Mukhopadhyay. He is an Indian Foreign Service officer who served in Mexico, Cuba, France, New York, and New York United Nations. Also an ambassador to Syria, Afghanistan, and Myanmar. And Sir Gautam Mukhopadhyay's wife is Nangsal Hovum, who is also an ambassador to Indonesia, Serbia, and Lebanon. Gautam Mukhopadhyay is presently advising the Confederation of Indian Industry on Northeast and Southeast Asia, and also NITI Forum for the Northeast, Policy Advisory for NITI Aayog, and he is interested in the uses of bamboo and mud. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the chairperson for the second session, let us all put our hands together and welcome him. May I also have the privilege to invite on stage our resource person for the second session, Alison Franklin, who is basically from UK, but is currently working in Thailand. Alison Franklin has been working in education for sustainable development for the past 12 years. She will now be talking about the impact, hands-on experience which bamboo can have on children. Ladies and gentlemen, Alison Franklin on the stage. May I also invite on stage Tuan Nguyen. Tuan Nguyen is an architect and urban designer from Vietnam. He earned the Bachelor of Architect in Hanoi and degrees in Sustainable Design at the School of Architecture of Hanoi and Toulouse, France, as well as Master at Center for Architectural Sciences and Ecologies in New York, USA. He will be talking about the role of bamboo in Vietnamese culture in the past, its uses today, and ideas for the future of bamboo in Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, Tuan Nguyen on the stage. May I now hand over the stage to the chairperson, Gautam Mukhopadhyay.
Thank you. It's never easy to recommence a session after the tea break with all the conversations that take place on the side. But it's a great privilege to welcome you back to this session of the World Bamboo Workshop in Manipur with our distinguished panelists and resource persons, Alison Frank and Mr. Let me start by sort of making a confession that I have absolutely no background or expertise in bamboo. My training has been as a diplomat, and in more recent years I've been interested in development issues, and particularly the role of bamboo in the development of the Northeast. Of course, this has been a very exhilarating workshop, and I would like to say a few words of my learnings from this at the end of this discussion. But let me also take this opportunity to remark that in the last 2.5 days we've had a lot of speakers and a lot of learnings and a lot of demonstrations also by representatives from India and from Latin America in general. But we have not had much experience recounted from the other great bamboo hotspot of the world, which is Southeast Asia, within which of course we can include the northeast of India as a kind of extension. So we feel particularly privileged to have Alison Frank and Mr. Tuan here with us to tell us a little bit about the experience of Southeast Asia. Indonesia is another country where there is a huge learnings and achievements in the area of bamboo and of course also mud. But at least we have Thailand, lessons from Thailand and from Vietnam. So let me first call upon Alison Frank to speak about the future of bamboo based on her experience in Thailand.
Good morning. We've had a few technical hitches, so I'm just waiting to see if you'll get any of the videos today. So usually I'm used to speaking to groups of 7-year-olds in small huddles in outdoor areas, so this is a bit of a different crowd with all these adults seated. I've travelled here today from Bangkok, Thailand. A city of 8 million people and 9 million cars. Ironically, the project I'm about to tell you about was temporarily shut down last week, along with every school in the city. Why? Because our air was too polluted to breathe. Too polluted solely by human activity that it was no longer safe to go outside. When children are no longer able to be educated because the air is too polluted to breathe, I think we can take that as a sign that environmental education should become somewhat a top priority, so that we don't end up living in a world where there's no choice but to stay inside. Air pollution being an issue, most definitely not unique just to Bangkok. That's a good start. My Bambi story starts back in 2015 when I was working as a grade 1 teacher in a small family-run international school on the outskirts of Bangkok. More specifically, with a group of energetic 6-year-olds who had requested to learn the skills they would need to survive in the jungle. It being Bangkok, it was more of a concrete jungle, and there weren't too many green spaces. So we settled for an abandoned football field in the centre of a car park. As the students began to learn to tie knots, build simple shelters and ignite fires, the irony wasn't lost on them. The juxtaposition of learning wilderness skills without a tree in sight got them thinking. The children suggested if there wasn't a jungle to play in, then maybe it was their job to plant one. And there began their love affair with bamboo. Little did we know then what a huge impact this little group of nature enthusiasts would make. With an enthusiastic nod of approval from our school principal, this abandoned patch of grass became ours to work with. So let's see what happens next, when the next generation, a group of city children with little or no experience with mud, are given a bunch of bamboo to plant and the opportunity to get mucky. dramatic ending. So, as you can see from the video, the patch of grass I spoke about quickly evolved. In fact, it is now known as the Teepee Farm, a hub for children to learn hands-on about sustainability. A farm built and designed entirely by children. So, how did it evolve? One afternoon, the original bamboo planting after-school club of 6-year-olds emerged from a fire-building session. Children's faces smothered in soot, reeking of campfire smoke, and the cheekiest smiles across their face. The school principal stopped them in their tracks and exclaimed, "Every child, everywhere, every child everywhere needs these experiences," and the whole school became involved. We devised a curriculum entitled Environmental Mindfulness, and our secret weapon? Bamboo. When the next academic year began, science lessons from kindergarten to grade 2 were taught entirely through hands-on experience on our little patch of grass in the middle of the car park. The grade 1 students had played and planted on this land for a year already, and it was this cohort who suggested introducing our feathered friends, ducklings. They said that they would dig the pond themselves, and having gained a wealth of experience digging already, we knew this wouldn't be a problem. They campaigned that duck poop would inevitably help the bamboo to grow, and they weren't wrong. In little time, the next project was underway. The students spent weeks hammering in bamboo fences and digging out ducklings, a luxury lagoon. Every day in this space, you see that children truly are natural-born scientists. They are curious beings, eager to discover about the world. Give them unstructured time in nature, even a tiny space in the middle of a car park, and their innovation will astound you. But deprive them of building a relationship with the natural world, and they won't even have seen all the beauty to know what there is to protect. I only realised how serious our bamboo journey had become the day that I received a very urgent email from the school council. The subject read, "School council, top priority, have you got a tree suitable for a tree house?" Word of this exciting project spread, and the trees were studied like never before. Which trees were the oldest and sturdiest? Which had enough branches that could support a house? Where did we want our dream tree house to be positioned? The children were making all of the decisions. We found a sturdy-looking mango tree, and the children began designing their dream house. They tested all of the different materials. This was still science class after all. Metals, hardwoods, plastics, testing which would be strong enough to endure the weather, flexible enough to move in the wind with the trees, sturdy enough to hold children safely, a material that would ultimately decompose once redundant. And it will come as no surprise to you that it didn't take very long for children to choose bamboo as the material of their choice. The 7-year-olds recognised bamboo as being stronger than steel, only takes 7 years to mature, very sustainable, would turn back, ultimately biodegrade, back into mud after use. These young minds, mostly aged 5 to 8, were motivated, keen to plan, learn and design, make mindful choices, always with their environmental footprint in mind. They began to understand just how much work goes into making things. A great lesson for young members of today's throwaway and fast fashion society. Here we have a whole school motivated and determined to build a structure with sustainability at the forefront of their minds. What would our world look like if future politicians, city planners, mainstream architects had at 7 worked with bamboo and had naturally begun to factor sustainability into their choices? So, with bamboo at the centre of our design, yet again, we set to work. So, how do a bunch of 5 to 8-year-olds build a treehouse? First, we did what we know best, and we dug. We got muddy again. We dug holes for some additional foundations, a simple task for the little ones. They were clear experts by now. Next, we sawed. With clear boundaries, teamwork, and motivation, everybody sawed. Teamwork and resilience were the only gateway to success. The students needed their friends to clamp down the wood and apply pressure, usually 2 students to a saw, and it being tough wood, you rotated often. Once the wood was cut to size, we sliced the bamboo to create flat panels using machetes, a favourite skill amongst the younger students. It was a truly beautiful sight to see students feeling heroic, admiring their pieces of flat bamboo poles that they'd produced. The child holding the machete is always the one in control. The one holding the hitter, the bamboo piece, asks 3 simple questions before anything happens. How many hits? How hard? Are you ready? The week after, children gained more confidence with bushcraft knives, taking the flat bamboo that they'd made, making them safe, carving the edges until they were smooth, an activity that children could do for hours, calmly and focused. That was a time lapse, but I don't think we're going to do that. Now, don't worry about it. Now, before I get accused of engaging in child labour, every child worked on the treehouse in an opt-in, opt-out basis. The students were taught the technical skills at the start of the session and had clear boundaries to ensure safety first. The students then had a choice whether to chip in and build, to work on our community project, the treehouse, or to purposefully use their time elsewhere in nature. This could involve anything from rescuing freshly laid frog spawn from our pond, stopping our very hungry ducks from eating it all up, or reaching down to the rock layer of the mud pit and eagerly trying to identify which rock was which. Back to the treehouse. So, the construction. The students began putting their materials in place, and first came the floorboards. Using mostly hand drills and hammers, the students worked in pairs, placing floorboards in place that they'd previously cut, hand drilling holes and hammering the nail through. The students knew their boundaries with tools. The learning was purposeful and meaningful, constantly provoking questions surrounding sustainability and how long things took to make. Once the floor was in, we began working on the sides. Another time lapse that isn't working. This is a job. A group came, they put them all in, I took them out, the next group came, they put them all in. A very satisfying piece of completing the treehouse. Penultimately, the ladder. Now, this was the big talking point throughout the project. They were obsessed, so we made this part of the build into a competition. Each group made a bamboo ladder. They submitted rope ladders, tree ladders, detachable ladders, secret ladders into trapdoors. Eventually, we settled for a rather elaborate design, which would also work as a climbing frame. Although much of the main construction was complete, students dipped back into their creative stage again and again, designing and attempted to build every treehouse accessory imaginable. First, a slide, a must-have to every treehouse. A pulley system to get things in and out. Telescopes to keep watch, bamboo binoculars, bambuculars as they're known as, and the prize piece. Oh, where's it gone? Oh, they even went as far as creating their own tools from bamboo because it wasn't, the tools they were using were metal and they'd begun to understand bamboo could do almost anything. But the prize piece, a zip line. As the students spent time working on the farm, their treehouse transformed from a castle to a pirate ship, a family home to a remote island. The students' imaginations were constantly at work, with nature as their only stimuli. So now we had a treehouse, a very proud group of students, whom having now built a treehouse, had a unique set of skills. They had, after all, transformed a patch of grass into a farm. During this time, the older children had campaigned for piglets to eat our food waste. Our ducks had become broody and reproduced new ducklings, and our bamboo had, as promised, shot up at an alarming rate. So what did the farm, built and designed by children, represent? Teamwork and perseverance and innovation, without which there would be no farm. A deep connection to nature, having spent the year planting the material they ultimately built their treehouse from. Safe and technical knowledge of how to use a range of hand tools with bamboo. Self-confidence and belief in themselves and their peers that they could build almost anything they wanted from the sustainable material. Innovation and creativity, knowledge of sustainable materials, a good understanding of the life of bamboo from its cultivation, its use at maturity, and the time it takes to turn back into mud. What would our world look like if all of the next generation gained these experiences and grew up reflecting constantly on their ecological footprint? Of course, the treehouse wasn't the end of the students' sustainable designs. The students continued spending time on the farm and learned through play and discovery, and without a major project in mind, they began to wonder what else they could build with their favourite wildgrass. Free to put their ideas and skills into practice, they put bamboo to the test. Bamboo jewellery, bamboolery. Piggy obstacle courses. Toy boxes for their creations. Several new houses for their treasured ducks. Bamboo doors, bamboo fences, and then what I think was the ultimate, they started to ponder if there was anything bamboo couldn't do. They'd eaten sticky rice from it, eaten the shoots. They'd even tried to create a friction fire using only bamboo. And you can see our newest duck Pippin watching them there in the clip. This was all the proof they needed that bamboo is so versatile and that with it they could build anything their little hearts desired. Even the parents got involved. A dad of a young boy in kindergarten came in with a model he'd built at home. "Do you think you can build this on the farm?" he asked. And off we went again, the younger students splitting, cleaving and carving, with the older ones lashing the dome together. The bamboo revolution is still in full swing today. Well, apart from the days when we're stuck inside due to high levels of pollution. Bamboo is our superhero of the building world, a wonderful wild grass that oxygenates our planet and is helping to build almost anything these little hearts desire. This is the material that the students watch decompose and turn into the mud they need to plant more bamboo. The beautiful cycle is endless. We have a lot to thank bamboo for. This renewable resource has taught our students so much about sustainability. It has provided them with the knowledge of what our plants need to survive and how to manage this. Our students now give more thought to what their belongings are made from and have an appreciation for how long things take to decompose. They want to reduce their consumption, reuse items and recycle goods. Bamboo has inspired these young minds, the next generation, to take action, be more responsible. They are proud to be global citizens and to encourage those around them to do the same, encouraging their families and friends to be more environmentally mindful. A growing generation of environmentally mindful citizens. So, could bamboo be the tool to help the next generation grow up to live in a world where once again our air is finally safe to breathe? Thanks for listening. Here's our Instagram at the TP Farm if you'd like to follow our journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Alison. I think there's a very, very strong message there that if you are really serious about the environment and about building environmentally mindful citizens, then perhaps the place to begin is the beginning, which is with children and with schools. And perhaps if there is a policy message that we can convey to the state government of Manipur, it could be how to bring bamboo education and nature education and environment education to the earliest classes, to the earliest period in school. Because not only is there a connection with nature, one of the problems with our education today is that we acquire PhDs, but we do not know how to make a table, or fix an electrical problem, or a plumbing problem. And we are completely divorced from the practical sort of problems of the day. I think another lesson from your talk was that in many ways you become much more hands-on. You learn how to use tools, and tools become a natural part of your growth. So with that, I think, thank you very much once again, Alison. Very interesting and very pedagogic lecture. I will now invite Mr. Tuan Nguyen from Vietnam to speak about bamboo in Vietnam. And I know of several extremely interesting architectural achievements in bamboo in Vietnam, in particular an architect by the name of Vo Chong Hia. But Mr. Nguyen is here to represent Vietnam and to tell us about the experience of bamboo in Vietnam.
Hello. My name is Tuan Nguyen, an architect and urban designer from Vietnam. I would like to thank you first for this opportunity to present to you bamboo in Vietnam, especially to the World Bamboo Organization Board and Dr. Nirmala Chongtham for this opportunity. So this has a few glimpse into my talk, I would talk about I'll talk about the yeah, the bamboo in the past, how it was integral in the Vietnamese culture, and then what is the use of bamboo in modern time, and also some of the idea for the future. A little bit of overview in Vietnam. We have a small country, long and narrow, but we have a high density from the old time. We rank number 14 populated country in the world with 94 million people, occupying a land of 330 to 600 kilometers square. And we have 1.5 million hectares of bamboo, which only after India, China, and Myanmar. Ecologically, we have different regions like this in Vietnam. We have tropical and we have subtropical regions, but mainly we have the two deltas, one in the north region and one in the south, and some highland and along coastal region. Along those ecological areas, we are occupied by 54 different ethnics. And they can be grouped in 8 main groups, depending on their dialect, language, and culture. So there would be a lot to cover all of them, because almost every culture have a very strong bamboo culture. So my focus today will be mostly from the main ethnic, which is the first one you see here, the Vietic. From the northern delta of Vietnam, and from there they go to other regions to occupy and populate it in other regions. These are the two deltas, one in the north named Red River Delta, and one from the south, Mekong Delta, which is the last gateway of the Mekong River that originated from the Himalaya to the sea. And in Vietnam, we often say there's a symbol of this woman, Vietnamese, that carry a shoulder pole with 2 baskets. And we often say that that's a symbol of Vietnam with that link the 2 delta. So you can see here that 2 main rice production area of Vietnam. Since I'm talking about the past, then I try to get some data from the past. This is the density map of the Red River Delta from the French geographer Pierre Gouroux. And it was in 1930, and it's already very high populated. Mainly, at least the moderate population density would be around 500 people per square kilometer, whereas in France, maybe 160 people or something like that at the time. So the point being here is that how do people occupy that land? How do they make the most out of it with that density? Because it's a constant problem from that time until now. Bamboo in the material civilization. I would like to talk about how, of course, in Asian country, every regions we are involved with bamboo products and tools. But I try to make the point about how bamboo is become so integral in the culture, and we can call it the material civilization. I heard a saying from a scientist is that technology civilization doesn't necessarily based just on how advanced the technology is, but more about how humane your technology is used in the everyday life. So for such a poor country like Vietnam, you will see how bamboo is so involved in their life and become a culture. So everyday item is this object in the house. I cannot find every word in English, so I put that in Vietnamese. So you could just look at that, look at the picture and can tell what it is. So mostly of the tool is, these two is in the kitchen, and it's to for the rice making, rice producing, preserving. You have chopstick, you have the hammock, and all kind of furniture and building component like this to avoid glare and providing shading. In terms of everyday life architecture, a house in the northern deltas is look like this. You always have a pond, a garden, a kitchen separated from the main house, and bamboo is everywhere in this setting. This the roof type. Mainly bamboo is in the roof rafter purlin, but bamboo and wood is interchangeable in Vietnamese architecture. So if people cannot afford wood, they would use bamboo. There are different kinds of trusses and name for it. Not only in the household items, in the agricultural tools, bamboo is also is everywhere, mostly in the handle of the tool. So this is the tillage and sowing tools for agriculture production. For transportation as well, they use that bamboo stick, shoulder pole, that you can transport things, and you can also use that for harvesting. Or you can do irrigation system like this. So you can transfer water from one rice field to another. For harvesting, for unhusking the rice, and even for measuring. So bamboo is not just the tools, but it's become a kind of a measuring system. People don't use like kilogram or pounds, but they would use the unit of bamboo tool to measure the unit. So this particular object is about 9 kilograms of bamboo rice, rice, and it's made of bamboo. And for food preservation as well. A day of a farmer, since I cannot gather on the picture of the modern day, I kind of look back in the book and see how bamboo is involved in a farmer. A farmer population took about like 90% of Vietnam in pre-industrial area. So here's the protagonist. He's a farmer. He would wake up like 5 a.m. every day, sweep the yard with a bamboo broom. He would eat breakfast, very simple, on that bamboo bed. But this bed is situated itself between the inside and outside the house, and it's multifunctional. He would go to the field with his buffalo. On the words here in red is the tool that made our bamboo. And you can see a little bit of the poem I put up there just to show that how bamboo had just escaped the material life of it. It's become really a cultural element of Vietnamese identity. And then he gonna work in the field, of course. He gonna take a break around lunchtime, smoke that bamboo bong. I don't encourage you to smoke, but that's how it works. He would go by with that basket in hand, and you know what is inside there? So in Vietnamese culture, in such a poor country, we cannot waste everything. So on the way back, he would carry that his own buffalo dung to come back home to use this for fire, to cooking. And if he's lucky, he could find a frog or something, and could have a frog and bamboo shoot, which is an amazing dish. Taken up on the same bamboo bed, going to work now on the crop field with his wife, with this bamboo handle, and go fishing with a bamboo stick, swimming, and then do some fencing before it's getting dark, and then again with his wife to have some dinner. That's how a day work in a farmer's life in Vietnam in the old day. So bamboo is everywhere in every activities, daily activities of a farmer. And not only in the life of a family, bamboo takes a very important role in protecting community space like this. So you could see almost in every village we would have a bamboo hedge that go around them. It provides shade, provides shelter for people, and it's the physical boundary and also mental boundary for the village. That's a typical plan of the village, where you can see the bamboos all around. In case of the war, also bamboo hedges were used to protect the people. For example, here, that's in the war against the French before. Bamboo was used to interconnect different villages and make a bamboo hedges all around to protect the people. And in fact, it's acknowledged by President Obama in 2016 when he came to Vietnam, and he acknowledged how bamboo is integral in the culture. And he say, your beloved land was not always your own, but like bamboo, the unbroken spirit of Vietnamese people is there always. So that's the village. And how about the city? The green circles here represent the villages. And in the center, you have a city. So bamboo is the protection element of every village, as we know. And a very interesting idea about Vietnamese city is that the word city itself is the citadel and the marketplace. That's why I bring up the idea of the marketplace here. The city in the old time, they are just administrative. It's not, there's no really what we have like in the city life nowadays. It's just for the king, and the second layer is for the officials, and the third layer is the housing for inhabitants. And there's something interesting happening in between that inhabitant layers and the villages around the city, which is the marketplace. And the marketplace here is, since it's temporary, is made of bamboo. So we can see how bamboo is protecting the village, but also it's become a protective element and make this urban life happen. These are the few photos of Vietnamese marketplace. You see everywhere people with bamboo hat, baskets, and all kind of shoulder poles, all kind of the products involving bamboo. And Edith Shilu, American writer, when she came to Vietnam in 1993, she was immediately fall in love with that shoulder pole, which is another symbol of Vietnamese people, especially the woman. That simple shoulder pole is going every day with a woman on her shoulder, you know, like 12, 10 kilometers a day to transport products. It's used to carry water, carry breakfast items, and all kind of other things in the market. So it was an amazing, simple piece of bamboo, and it's so useful in the Vietnamese culture. And even this woman here, she have her own household moving with bamboo pole, with her own 2 children. That's how is it made. You cut it and you choose the very kind of old, maybe 6, 7 years old bamboo pole, cut in half, you smoke it, and you know, it looks simple, but it's really requires some very skill to produce it. Talking about bamboo pole, people not only produce bamboo pole, but do all kind of other crafts. So most of the bamboo products is produced by the farmer itself, but it did come to the point that we need more tools that we need to trade, and that's how the craft villages happen. So around Hanoi alone, there's a lot of craft villages making basket or bamboo hat, etc. Like this one. So I've been talking about the domestic life, the community life, the marketplace in the city. Bamboo also appear on the festival itself. As here in Manipur, I can see the relevance. The festival is so important for agricultural life, because without festivals, nothing happens. Agriculture cannot take place or begin without a festival. A festival would mark the beginning and the end of the season. So, you know, bamboo here in the bamboo tool with the buffalo to inaugurate a season of cultivation. Or on the steel, or here you see the swing. And also a lot of musical instrument is used using bamboo. So to close that part of Vietnamese culture, I'm trying to make the point here that bamboo is for the poor, and it's no misconception in the past. It's for the poor. And I think the lesson is learned here is not, it's about how we use bamboo to overcome that, and how do a closed self-sustained economy is important, and how resourcefulness the farmer of Vietnam have come up with to deal with scarcity of resources. So for me, bamboo is not just the product itself, or it's not just the material element, but it's the immaterial element as well. And I like to call it the scaffold of the farmer civilization. How about bamboo is used in modern uses, in modern day? We have craft. More and more artisans, they come up with pieces using bamboo and conducting a workshop like Tan Bo from Tabu Workshop in Da Nang. So if you guys have a chance to visit Da Nang, go to the Tabu Workshop. It's an amazing artisan, and he provides tools and 3 hours of education, and you would spend 3 hours and you come home with your own piece. Like that. Bamboo is also used for building materials, bamboo decking, bamboo block, panels, veneer, for furniture, and architecture. Like these prefab houses, or this office and studio by Lê Lương Ngọc Architect, and of course by Võ Trọng Nghĩa, as you just mentioned earlier, the famous architect of Vietnam. He used a specific bamboo piece in the south named Tom Vong. It's about 4 centimeters in diameter, and the way it works is work in a bundle to creating trusses and beam systems. My last part is bamboo in the future. So for me, I think there's a lot of exciting things going on around the world, and in particular in Vietnam as well, for bamboo furniture, architecture, and products. But a lot of time I'm perplexed about, especially for architecture, like even this building. It looks beautiful, but usually in a resort like that, the first thing they need to do is to clear the land. And a lot of times you need to get people out of the way first to come up with a, so-called sustainable design solution. For me, I feel more drawn into the idea of bamboo as a civilized materials, like in the past. So what is the future of bamboo? Should we continue doing that? Of course, we cannot stop it, and it's nice, but what is the alternative? One of them, I think, is collaboration like this, the bamboo workshops. So I've been privileged to participate in the bamboo workshop with Dr. Helen Nori. So some of you might know her from the University of Tasmania, Australia. They have a 4-year program in Vietnam. The student would come to Vietnam twice a year to conduct workshop in different provinces. This workshop we do in Hanoi, Saigon, and Dien Bien in the northern region of Vietnam. So this workshop is very important in terms of introducing new technologies, of using bamboo for the students and for the farmer. This is the structure we raised at my old school in Hanoi. It's going to last for 1 year, and it's inaugurated for the celebration of Teachers' Day in Vietnam. Architecture is another workshop of UTAS, University of Tasmania. They go into the mountain and doing cow shed for people like that to help them identify bamboo species, but also raising structure for animals. So they came last July to do this, and in November they come back to check how it works and fix it. These are a few images of the workshop. We go around different area and identify bamboo species. Another venue for the future. These are the futures already happened, but it's continue happening. So that's why I categorize them as a future. Phu An Bamboo Village is another place to cultivate bamboo, preserve bamboo. It's organized by Dr. Mi Hạnh, a biologist in the south of Vietnam. And that village is a reforestation learning place, a place for bamboo conservation, to improve agriculture productivity and to transfer knowledge, exchanging traditional knowledge and modern technologies. This is her on the right, third one from the right, Mi Hạnh. This another project named Thanh Tam Bamboo Equipment in Thanh Hóa. This is the largest area of bamboo in Vietnam with the best quality. And I happen to work with them on this project particularly. It's 160 hectare of bamboo land. As you can see here, it's 4 hours south of Hanoi. And if you fly from Saigon, it's only 2 hours. So the location is quite well connected. In 2021, they're gonna make the airport international airport. So the connection is good for the project, and it's 60 kilometers from that area to the deep water seaport. So that means it also have a potential to export bamboo product. That's a project. You can see there's one island there and one inland. In total, it's 160 hectares, and have different. So the idea is that the chairman of the project, he wanted to invite a lot of different bamboo architects to do different buildings and promote ecotourism in the area with bamboo buildings. So I was invited to came in, and what I propose is that I think that a cluster of bamboo buildings for people to come in is not a bad idea, but people would come and go. So what else we can do? In the area, there's only 1 or 2 buildings of Vietnamese architect already. But what I propose is to have a bamboo center, because here with the bamboo center you can do more with your land, because the land is large and with good quality of bamboo. So if we can have a bamboo center, then you can train artisans, you can transfer knowledge, you can invite people to come to do workshops. So what is that I propose, and recently he approved it, the idea, and hopefully it's going to be constructed this year sometimes. So the center is going to have these elements of 9 elements. The building is organized around a central courtyard, and you have the main number 1 here, the main studio and gallery of bamboo, with 2 wings building where you can conduct a craft workshop. There's a building workshop, which is number 3, and number 5, 6, 7 is a loading area and bamboo treatment facilities. When you come in, you would come in a row with bamboo around and go past by a cafeteria on the pond. And lastly, on the mountain opposite of it, you would find area for artist residences, where artists gonna be invited, and each one would have a bungalow and garden to produce their artwork. That's the perspective. So yeah, that's the idea of the center. I think the future needs to be a collaborative project, so that the local people can learn from the artisans and the academic, the workers, so we can have more people have skill to do with bamboo craft and building. Just like in the old time, the farmer made the tool for themselves, and that's how they can dignify their identity by doing work with bamboo. Last project here I just want to show, just because before I came back to Vietnam, I happened to work with a clinic in Haiti. It's a non-profit organization who committed to helping pregnant women in Haiti to reduce their maternal mortality. So what it can be do with the bamboo center here is, the idea is to, I think that we can transfer the knowledge from one part of the world to the other through bamboo. And the idea is for Haitian people can later learn on that and do the clinic themselves. This Freddy, the doctor, a Haitian doctor who come up with the idea of the nonprofit, I've been working with him for a year. This is the center. You see the guest house on the upper right, and the rest of it is the clinic. And hopefully it's going to all be with bamboo. This is a 3D printing model of the buildings. You have library, you have guest houses, you have clinic, you have training center, you have vehicle fixing center. So every day the clinic, like 20 of them would go on one vehicle and go to different areas and set up their own clinic to treat women. So that become more and more demand, so that they need to have a training center to have more mobile clinic, and eventually would have their own clinic. And this is something, this is the choices that we're gonna hope to build with my co-worker in New York for this project, to work in the bamboo center to do bamboo trusses and then shift to Haiti. And hopefully from that point on, they can cultivate bamboo and do that themselves. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. That too was very interesting. I think one of the great virtues of holding this bamboo workshop in Imphal is the presence of so many experts from all over the world, from Latin America, from India, from Southeast Asia, and the learnings, both policy learnings as well as ideas, as well as techniques and uses that we can make, that we can gain from that. And I would just like to highlight 3 or 4 very strong kind of messages that came through your talk, Mr. Tuan. One was the sheer multiplicity of uses of bamboo. And of course, we are all familiar with this in India, and particularly in the Northeast. But the additional learning that I got from that was how those uses still remain very closely integrated to daily life in Vietnam. Something that we perhaps may be losing on this side, or at least that is getting eroded. So I think it's a very timely reminder that bamboo is an evergreen material. Evergreen in the sense that it can be, it's not lost its relevance with time and in modern times, and it can still be reintegrated not only in domestic life, but as he showed, in community life, village life, city life, and urban design. The second very strong point that came to me was this whole idea of the human scale of bamboo, what he called a humane technology. That means not something that is necessarily grand and big and overpowering, but something that is very reachable, something that is very human, something that is participative. Again, you put a very strong kind of emphasis on collaborative frameworks, particularly in the future uses of bamboo. A third point I think that comes through very strongly from the Vietnamese experience is the optimization, the kind of maximum use of bamboo, particularly in dense areas, highly populated areas, how nothing is wasted. So in many ways it's already a lesson in conservation and ecology and in those things. And finally, a very interesting point that you made on the modern uses of bamboo. I think you gave a good corrective in the sense that bamboo, just design should not be such an end in itself that just in the pursuit of design you end up displacing a lot of people and taking over a lot of land, in spite of the aesthetic properties of the venture or of the initiative. But rather that some of its future uses could be really geared towards the kind of things that he said. Collaborative frameworks, transfer of knowledge, training, bringing people together, a number of uses. And in fact, also in the last example of the MIMSI non-profit example that you gave about social and other health sort of uses that can be brought through bamboo and bamboo cultivation. So altogether, a very illuminating talk, illuminating not only in terms of the content, but also in terms of what Vietnam has traditionally made use of with bamboo and the possibilities in the future. And though we might have exceeded our time a little in terms of the original program, not forgetting that we started very late, we are very much in time. And I would have liked to say a few things about other learnings from the conference, but it's not very often that we have international experts in Manipur, and I'm sure a lot of you would have questions for our two experts today. So let me allow maybe a maximum of 5 minutes, because the floor is also wanted for the discussion hour that has been postponed from the past. So let me allow a maximum of 5 minutes for questions. Please make your questions brief. Identify yourself, and it can be a comment or a question, but please make it brief. It's more effective that way. Okay, the gentleman's right in front, and then the next gentleman to his right.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Architect Mayok. I'm working in Kerala, my office. So I would just like to put a question to Shimena. So it was like regarding the video that she was showing for Guadua. Yeah. No, the previous session.
Sorry, there is a request for a small break, okay. Not an advertisement break, but a felicitation break.
I'm extremely sorry. May I take this moment to felicitate our speaker and the chairperson for the session now. I would like to request Sri P. Vaipe, IAS Principal Secretary, Textiles, Commerce and Industry, to honor our resource person today. The chairperson, Gautam Mukhopadhyay. Alison Franklin. And Tuan Nguyen. Thank you, sir. Before we begin a discussion hour, I would like to call the speakers of the first session, Hemant Bedekar, who had spoken on Bamboo Society of India, Jimena Londono, who spoke on ecotourism with bamboo in Colombia, and Kavita Chaudhary, who had spoken on exploration of bamboo fabric with natural dyes for sustainability. Let's all welcome them back on the stage for the discussion hour.
So sorry, so this becomes a combined discussion of the last session as well as this session. Not sure I'm qualified to chair or preside over the last discussion, but let me start with, I'm sorry for the interruption from the gentleman from Kerala. Your question was, I think, addressed to Alison Frank, am I right?
Yeah.
Please carry
on. Sorry, it was to the second speaker. No, for the first session. It's yeah, right. So your video was showing something like in which a person was like inside in the video itself. Someone was using a fire to do something over a split that was there in Godwa. It was like it was in a living species actually. Means it was a living one. So there was some split there, and someone was doing something with fire. So yeah, what was that actually?
Okay, yes, that is a very traditional for Christmas time at the end of the year. So people select a big bamboo and destroy the note, and then they leave the last 2 or 3 internotes. They make a hole and they put gasoline on, and they, with a little fire, you just burn. I have been doing this since I 3 years old. It's not dangerous for anything. So it's a very nice tradition, and it's still to make pólvora. We use this traditional to make sounds and happiness for the new year.
In other
So
words,
it's
bamboo alternative to firecrackers.
Yeah, that's-
Instead of using
what is it called, as if you can kindly tell that, then we can maybe YouTube it or something like to see it, how it works. What's the name of that?
Cañón de Guadua. Guaduac
that means it's
Cannon.
like a guadua bamboo cannon.
bamboo cannon.
Next question, I think, gentleman there.
Good morning. My name is Lubura. I am the Secretary of the Belgian Bamboo Society and the International Representative of the American Bamboo Society. I have two short comments to make. One in support of the presentation made on the Bamboo Society of India. I think this is very interesting, and I think bamboo societies, as a way of organizing people and exchanging information, is a very useful form of fostering bamboo development. And secondly, it would be very good that the bamboo societies of the different worlds, on different continents, exchange information with each other and work together with each other. My second comment is on this beautiful place in Colombia, Chilena Londoño. I have been traveling for years and years around the world, and everywhere I will try to see if there's eco-tourism places or places where they have integrate tourism and lodging and whatever kind of history in nice places. And bamboo, in most countries, bamboo grows in hilly areas, remote areas, very often areas where development is not very advanced. And I think, especially with the current urbanization, there will be more and more demand for such kind of eco-parks, eco-touristic places. And this should not, the place in Colombia is excellent, is magnificent. Even simple places like a few bamboo houses with some hiking trails will already be very attractive, and I think we should really promote very much such similar kind of touristic places in the bamboo areas. This is a very huge potential. It's a huge market for it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I take that those were really two comments. There was no question. Thank you. I don't know if Mr. Bediker, you wish to say something, or
thank you very much for this comment. We also wish that there should be collaboration between all the societies world over, so that we can come together with the ideas. And societies is a different platform than the commercial platforms, so that here we can bring all together, right from the researchers to the regular users, and that will give definitely a better perspective and a better development for bamboo itself. Thank you.
thank you. Any more questions?
Sir,
I think
Yeah.
we have a question here, and anything on this
yeah.
side?
Sir, this side, front of you.
Front of
Here,
you.
here.
There. Okay.
Yeah.
First from this side, then you. Please.
Gautam ji, next to this, Mr. Tam from Vietnam, no? Next to this. Gautam ji, you are, no?
Yeah.
Sir, we have very lot of opportunities in Northeast. The main thing is the bamboo sticks,
Is the
bamboo. Everywhere you go, Tripura, Mizoram, Assam, Manipur, all things are only grows a bamboo. Now India is very vast. The bamboo has to cross by road in thousands of miles. I am an industrialist in Bangalore, which my potential is finished products of 100 tons a month. If you bring back this project, and I want to make this project in Manipur or Assam or Mizoram, the transportation cost itself grows, the value will be more than that. In future, is it any possible from Manipur, Tripura, and from any seaport to Chennai, Visakhapatnam, so the sea cost will be very cheaper. And what the productions of our Northeast having it, definitely the South Indian major cities can take the potentials of our Northeast bamboo sticks, like South India like Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, everything. So is it any possibilities by sea? So it may cost the drop down. It's my request. It can be possible or not. That's all. Well, thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think that's a question that perhaps I am competent to answer. Let me say that I think this has been pretty much the dream of policymakers, the central government as well as the Northeast, for quite some time. And while an immediate solution is not available, there have been a number of steps that have been taking place to reopen the access of the Northeast towards the Bay of Bengal and towards the sea. Please don't forget that before partition, the Northeast did have access to the sea through Chittagong port. Now there are two major initiatives underway right now, in fact more than two, but let me just mention two key ones. One is the Caledon Multimodal Transit project, which is a project that opens up from the Northeast through Mizoram and ultimately has a multimodal, that means a river as well as a road connectivity to a port called Sitwe, the old Akia port in Myanmar. That is likely to take another at least 3 years before it comes to fruition. But in the meantime, the government of India has been working very hard with Bangladesh to be able to open Bangladesh to transit trade, and both land, river, as well as port trade. And steps have been taken to connect Agartala, for example, towards Chittagong and Cox's Bazar. And an MOU has also recently been signed about the use of a couple of ports, I think Mongla Port and Chittagong Port, for transport and connectivity. So I think there have been very positive developments in connectivity for the Northeast, both towards the east and towards the Bay of Bengal. And a very important point that you make is that in a way the big market for those products lies in the rest of India. It is not necessarily, I mean, the international market is also there, but there's a huge market for bamboo products.
I'm addition for the on behalf of Tripura. There's it. Hello.
Sorry.
Yeah, there. I'm on behalf of Tripura government.
Sorry, on behalf of?
Tripura government.
Right.
Yeah.
But please, let's follow some order. You have something specific to say on this? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, now the Tripura government, the bamboo restricted the Chittagong, Akhora. Akhora, okay?
Yeah, Akhora is another.
Yeah, this is not Akhora, this is only Agartala to the Akhora, this is 5 kilometer.
Yes.
So if your government is, they restricted the bamboo export like there. So now the withdraw. Okay.
We are not exporting. We are from South India, Bangalore.
But I know you are discussed that incentive also there. You are truly now of free, free, and the Chittagong and they are through the Monu only for 75 kilometer. The open, all of that open.
No, sir. For South India people, they want to make as a production in your Tripura or in other northeast states.
See, future our all of the enter your Bangalore anywhere. That's we are the provide the 60% incentive from the Tripura.
Yeah.
So now the actually the people's government is the nothing the initiative. So your industrial based policy. So now in new government is the something is taking the policy taken up. Though you later be the later, but you now is the process for you.
Yeah,
industrial.
Let it be.
Come, you meet the office. We will discuss the later.
No, regarding the government or new policies.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the transportations by road it may not cost so easily. In future, my questions that in future, if you take any transportation by sea or by on water.
No, this is
Okay.
already started.
I think let's not make this a completely bilateral discussion.
Yeah.
I think your point is very well taken. You have made a very good point. We had a request from, I think, the lady there. Please.
Hi, I'm Khyati Patel, and I'm working in a new arch landscape firm in Mumbai. So I'm an architect. So I have one comment for Alison and a question for Hemant Bedekar sir. Alison, your work is really inspirational, and I really loved the entire presentation and it is something very important what the entire architectural education is failing over here, because we are, that was on the junior level, but even at the graduation level, the basics hand-on experience is not that much exposed. So it's really great that you have taken an initiative for students at such a lower level to incorporate them in a, at the basic stage of their life. And one of my questions for this Hemant Bedeke sir is there a possibility for BSI, Bamboo Society of India, to collaborate with Maharashtra Ecotourism Board? Because if you visit the Maharashtra Ecotourism Board website, all of the accommodations which are suggested or promoted by this platform are concrete-based accommodations, and which would promote basically bamboo blinders or wooden windows or something like that. So it's a platform which should promote materials like bamboo, right? Definitely, of vernacular or local materials. But at this stage, the ecotourism, the government board ecotourism itself is promoting a material which is not native and which is destructing the environment itself. So you have a wildlife sanctuary, and then you have a small 3x3 concrete structure wherein you explore the entire nature around, and at the end you sleep in a concrete box. So then you're not promoting ecotourism, then that's just, I don't know what to call that thing. So is there a possibility of collaboration, or we could think in some lines to that? That was my question.
Very, very good point. Maybe you could answer that. Yeah, she should answer first. No, there was no question addressed. It was just an appreciation.
In case of ecotourism and all these collaborations with the government one, we, Bamboo Society of India, are trying for several years that there should be the accommodation of the bamboo furniture in the purchasing process of the governments. We are trying our hard. Sometimes we get success, sometimes we are not getting any success. Unfortunately, yet the bureaucrats were not able to understand what is the importance of bamboo. Because there are several answers or several problems were there according to them. I'm not going in detail for that. But nowadays, the situation is changing very slowly, but it is changing. Definitely, the government is now planning to purchase some furnitures at several levels in the government departments. And when the government department purchases the furniture, naturally, even though it is hardly 10%, it is a huge quantity. So if it will be done, then naturally the furniture makers as well as the architects who are designers also, they will also get the chance to put their ideas before the people. We are trying our hard. Only thing is that it takes time, that is true. But it will happen. And in case of any other institutions, it may be government or it is non-government, we are totally open to collaborate with anybody. Because we are not any profit makers. We are the gathering of all sorts of the people in the society who are the bamboo lovers. So naturally, anybody who is coming over there, we are ready to welcome, and we are ready to extend our hands to collaborate with them. I think I have...
Yes, thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Before we sort of close this session, I wonder if there's any question from anyone in Manipur for Vietnam, in particular because of the great sort of similarities and possibilities that I see for cooperation between Manipur and the Northeast in general and Vietnam. Thank you.
My friend Tuan, I just want to inquire about the handicraft sector from Vietnam. I've been seeing lots of bamboo coil product in the international market. How are they made? They are made in the cottage level or village level or in the big industry level? Yeah, bamboo coiling.
Mostly the bamboo products is produced in the craft villages. Recently, there are a company producing this different handicraft products, and there's an ongoing trend of the company become a social entrepreneur, that they could be based in the middle of near the village, and they would employ the villagers who already have the skills and train them to do new products.
I'm overwhelmed
So
by this.
mainly villages, craft villages.
Because of the standardization, the same ball looks the same thing. Because in handicraft sector is different. One size will be, size difference will be there. But in your Vietnam, the standardization is so high. Very high quality.
So let me just add to that. I think one of the innovations that Vietnam has done, to the extent that I know, at least I have seen, is they have developed this idea of crafts villages. So a village has specialized in, let's say, a certain craft, paper toys or wooden toys or bamboo products. So the village itself becomes a tourist destination because it has developed a reputation for a particular product. And in many ways, I think there are also issues of work ethic and so on. The Vietnamese are very hardworking, very disciplined, and I think if we could also adopt that kind of hard work and discipline, I'm sure we could create the standardized products that Vietnam does.
But at the same time, the craft villages is disappearing because it's belong to the small, closed economy. So mainly it's for their own villages or the neighbor villages. So we are not so good with large-scale production, exporting. That's the idea that I think the future we should revitalize those villages and work with them. But otherwise, they're gonna disappear actually.
So I think the gentleman from Kerala has been very keen to ask a second question. This absolutely, please be quick.
It is somewhat a question as well as a concern. So when we work, especially for bamboo, like if government gets involved, especially apart from private stakeholders, whenever we work on a project of bamboo, the technicalities are quite very much different as compared to the conventional buildings that we do. But mostly what happens when we work on a government project is the people who handles, I don't, no offense to any governmental authorities, but this is what we face. Like when we start handling those projects, the projects are being considered very much in parametric forms like what happens with the concrete buildings, right from the design schedules to the payments. This is the grassroots realities actually. But whereas the entire technicality of working on a bamboo structure is very, very different as compared to that of a concrete building. So it's very difficult for us to, educate a government department and get it done. Like, okay, this is what is the difference, because educating the department is more expensive than actually designing it. So, and this is actually a fact. I don't know whether I should say it here or not, but this is actually a fact. And if at all the awareness has to come, if it takes too long, maybe, I don't know.
Please be quick. I think you've made your point. Any other point?
So how can we actually mitigate these issues?
Okay, let me just say something. Look, what you say is very valid, but I think first work within your architects community. What is the acceptability of bamboo within the architect community itself? How can architects take up the issue of building codes so that the government is sensitized to the possibility of architecture, not only in bamboo, but also in mud, in ways that, they are adopted codes. Now, I think, in all these endeavors, the professional group has to take the lead. And in this case, I would say the Architects Associations of India should take the lead in being able to kind of provide the advisory sort of counseling to the government that, just as you have building codes with concrete and steel and masonry and so on, you can also have building codes for mud and bamboo and other recycled reconstruction materials. And I think the point was made somewhere else that, a lot of this alternative architecture hardly has acceptability within the professional communities itself. So let's start first working within the professional community, and side by side, please do work with the government, please do work with the Bamboo Society. I think these are all advocacy groups that we can utilize to be able to advance this. Look, this is a community of the converted. We need to convert people to these ideas outside this community. And I think we need to take this message across very strongly. I take your point, but let's start with ourselves.
Hello, can I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
Here.
Sorry.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hemanji.
Yes. Ladies first, always.
Yeah. Thank you.
Where is that?
Thank
I'm sorry,
you.
I can't spot you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My question is a little general. I see two different stands that are happening. One query is export and development, Second is sustainability and self-sufficiency.
Commercial and industrial applications of bamboo and other products because it, offers scale and makes a lot of money. But the point that Dr. Bisht made was actually we need to start beginning with ourselves. How we can reintroduce and integrate bamboo in our daily life in many of the ways that Mr. Tuan said. And this is not just out of a question of selfishness, because actually it's also a question of a kind of grassroots development for which I think Alison Frank gave another approach, which is from the educational side. Which is so that these things become our habits, and because they have become our habits, then they get disseminated and spread that way. In a way, a practice is the best advertisement. So it's not necessarily that they are contradictory. And it's not necessarily that commercial applications are necessarily bad. Mr. Bharati, in his first presentation on bamboo as a biofuel, gave the example of scalable cultivation of bamboo, not for necessarily for profit, but as a replacement for fossil fuels. So there can be large-scale cultivations that can also be contributing to the environment. But I think it's a very good point that you made, the tension between a kind of non-commercial, self-sustaining use as well as a commercial use which has some implications for sustainability. And obviously I think one way that has been suggested, and I think Susan Lucas also made this point, that let's begin with local species. Let's begin, and because they belong to part of an ecosystem, how can we make the maximum use of the species that we have? How can we use those species for uses that we are not actually making? This doesn't exclude the role for exotic species, as Ximena Londonio showed in Colombia, but the use for exotic species will be specific to a particular purpose, and you should always weigh the risks of the kind of impact of exotic species on the local ecology and environment.
Right.
But I think it's a very good point, and I'm glad that you
Thank
made
you.
it. Please.
Okay, the important for me is to maintain the equilibrium. So the equilibrium that to be productive and sustainable, but environmental safe. So this is we cannot lose that line. No?
So question of balance.
It's a question of.
All right, I think we've had a very okay, one more question from Malaysia.
I came to this conference looking at the bamboo for future, breaking the challenges of bamboo for future. And today, this morning, I hear all historical economy. We are not moving forward. So that's why all of us are poor. And we are talking about shipping tons and tons of heavy weights around the world. So my question is, when are we going to wake up and create a new future for ourselves? And the future I see, one is cross-laminated furniture for high-rise building. Second one is crafting from our bamboo. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone from the... I think Mr. Tuan Nguyen did try to address the issue of bamboo, the future of bamboo, but your points are well taken. Would anyone like to make any additional comment?
I will just add in that, unless and until we are not coming together as a community and the bamboo users, bamboo will not stand. And
Not
that
true,
is happening, especially in case of India, I have observed that we talk so many things about bamboo, but we are not using single articles in our own houses.
No, the reason is our bamboo is bulky and is considered cheap item. Can we change it to high value item? So for that, next year I invite all of you to come to my farm and we'll be delightful to entertain you with new technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. I wish you could have had a platform to educate us on this yourself. Okay. I think we have to call this.
Excuse me?
We still have one question.
Only one word I have to take from all of us. Hemanji, Romanindo, Antino, and Mr. Tuan from Vietnam.
Yeah.
Bamboo is
Can you raise your hand? Where you
it's me, it's me, it's me from Bangalore, Ramesh Sharma.
Please be quick.
Only one question, answer. Bamboo is called wood or grass? From Vietnam, from Antonia, Colombia, and Hemanji from India. Please tell me, sir, bamboo is called wood or grass?
It's a grassy wood.
And it's a grassy wood.
No. No, bamboo.
Because only botanically it is only grass, but its growth pattern is not like grass, it is like similar to wood, but not exactly again the wood.
No, sir. Tell me one word, wood or grass?
It is a grass.
Hey, one second.
It is a grass,
Yes,
but
enough.
can be used for substitute of wood.
No, sir. I want grass or wood.
No. I think,
No, bamboo.
I think this is not an inquisition. Please.
Antonia, sir. Antonia.
Yeah. Evolutionary bamboo is a poacea, it's a grass.
Grass.
So we have to think bamboo as a crop, but the sugar cane is a cousin of bamboo, rice is a cousin of bamboo, corn is a cousin of bamboo. We have to see bamboo like a grass, like a crop.
So finally,
and we eat bamboo. We don't eat tree.
Yes, it's called grass then.
Excuse me. Look, if you want to satisfy yourself.
What do you want to say?
Yeah.
Sir, in case we have done some business in this, no? Many people used to take the forest permit and all, no? Then it is called, in India it's called wood. So
No,
in other space,
No,
it is
that's
called,
sorry.
That
I'm
policy
sorry.
has now been
it has
changed.
been cleared on the platforms of Lok Sabha that it is a grass and it took 70 years for us.
Yes.
It is very unfortunate part of it.
Yes, sir.
Each and every bamboo book, each and every botanical book states it as a grass right from the beginning.
Okay.
But only some people with their vested interest put it in the wood, but now it has been clear. There is no controversy now, it is a grass.
I think this is the last word on that. No more on this. One last question from the front.
70 years.
Microphone.
Yes. In India, lakhs of houses are being constructed every year for BPL people, below poverty line people. And no state government is willing to come forward to take up bamboo housing. Why it is so, and how best to sensitize state governments to go for bamboo housing?
I don't think our panel is quite qualified to answer that. Maybe Mr. Bidekar?
Can I answer this later?
Okay.
Just I will have a comment, not an actual answer because I am also not a competent enough to answer your question.
Excuse
but
me.
It is the mentality that the villagers always want the house constructed with cement and steel. Unless and until that is not removed from their mindset, till it will be demanded by the people, and whatever is demand, government will provide.
Can I just reply to his query, if possible? See, moment we talk about an EWS housing scheme, that is economically weakest housing scheme or housing for the poor, basically what we are trying to deliver is a good housing condition in which is like thrivable, like which thrives for quite a big span of time, and nothing like which is temporary. Now, once we talk about bamboo can be dealt in two ways. Like we can make a temporary shelter out of that as well as a very professional and a very long-lasting structure. Moment we talk about a very professionally, properly designed structure which can last for long, it is no more very cheap as compared to concrete or a conventional building. So what we can say is like we have a wrong notion in our mind that a bamboo building is always cheap. It is not so. Bamboo buildings are not extremely cheap as compared to a conventional building. What it is a much more greener structure, it's a much more sustainable structure. Obviously there are a lot of avenues in which we can cut down the cost, but it is not, never it is too cheap as compared to that, so that we can actually bring it down to an EWS level without considering the additional parameters into the picture.
I think,
well, I would like to make a comment about why bamboo houses are not promoted for Colombian government. We used to have a lot of earthquakes in Colombia, and our good architect designed very nice house solution for the people affected by the earthquake. But the government didn't take care about bamboo, and they invest in 10,000, 100 or 100,000 houses. Why? Because there are strong economic interests for other companies. So it's mainly for that. It's not because we are not demonstrate that to have a bamboo house is safer, is nicer, is a bigger house size. For the same price, we can bring more area. We can bring 52 square meters when the concrete house, they give only 36 square meters. But there are a strong economic interest behind these systems.
Just a minute, sir. There is another thing that, as Mr. Mukhopadhyay pointed out, that yet in the definition also, bamboo structure is always called as a temporary structure. Unless and until we will not make the code and conduct and the number of the coding, and it should be proven in the law or in the technical terms that it is a permanent structure, then maybe people will accept it.
Sir, can I also put a short and quick question?
Sorry, please. I think this can go on and on. I would strongly suggest that now we conduct the rest of the discussion outside the auditorium. I'm sure your lunch is also waiting for you. I'd like to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank all the participants this morning who are present with us, as well as the last panel that I have chaired, Alison Frank and Mr. Tuan Nguyen, for their excellent and enlightening presentations. And I do hope that the people of Manipur and the government of Manipur are drawing the lessons from this to make Manipur the bamboo capital of India and perhaps even of Asia, together with our partner countries.
Thank you very much to all our resource person and speaker for today. With that, we've come to the end of Day 3 session. I would like to thank each and every one of you participating today for your participation. We truly appreciate it. I have a small announcement. For those of you participating in the poster making session, it is informed that all of you have to be present at near your respective posters by 2:30, because the judges will have to come and interact with all the participants. So I would like to request the participants of the poster making to please kindly be present near your respective poster by 2:30. Post-lunch, we have a technical training program which will be conducted in the painting hall. First, we will have hands-on training on the creative skill workshop in bamboo by Subham Tambi and handicraft by Tensubam Kandi, a bamboo artisan from Manipur.
Excuse me, can you repeat the venue of the technical session?
Yes, it will be at a painting hall. I think it's downstairs.
At painting hall only.
I'm sorry?
At painting hall only.
Yes, yes. Okay. And we shall now take a lunch break for an hour. I would like to request the participants and delegates to please proceed towards your left. It's on my right for the lunch, and the speakers and the other distinguished guests, I would like to request you to proceed towards my left on the dining hall. Thank you very much.